Real nobility is about how we love and serve others. I'm Sandra Orchard, and I mainly write mysteries and romantic suspense. I started writing fiction after a blown disc in my back sidelined me from the renovation work on our Century home. I love doing all sorts of outdoor and woodworking. And at the time, I was still homeschooling my children, but I got the call that a publisher wanted to buy my first book on my youngest daughter's first day of college. So after that, I began writing full-time. Now I'm also a full-time grandmother of 13, almost 14 grandchildren. Well, I've always loved to write. In fact, my first published short story came out in our school yearbook when I was in grade 1. But as I grew older, I actually majored in math in university, and I didn't think I had enough imagination to write fiction. I figured I was more inclined to write articles of the how to make your children mind without losing yours variety once I started having children, and I took a course on writing thinking I might start pursuing it more seriously. But then my mom passed away, and I really struggled with grief, and the nonfiction books weren't cutting it. But thankfully I discovered Christian fiction, and seeing how the characters work through similar feelings to what I was experiencing helped me in countless ways. And the more I read, the more I realized that I wanted to write inspirational stories like that. And by the time I read a few hundred of them, I thought I might actually be able to write those kind of stories. So The Mysteries of Cobble Hill Farm is about Harriet Bailey. She's an American veterinarian, and she's inherited her grandfather's farm, his art gallery, and his mixed animal practice, and this is in the UK. It's set in the gorgeous countryside and seasides of Yorkshire County. So it has rich settings, it's rich in history, it has a mix of wonderful, quirky characters. If you're a fan of mysteries and all creatures great and small, or the Yorkshire vet, this series is definitely your cup of tea. So the elephant in the room is well on in the series. It's book 18, I think. And in it, when Harriet's account of something she witnesses pretty much clinches the case against the supposed thief of a priceless elephant statue at the manor house, Harriet's not convinced, and she feels compelled to root out the real culprit because she doesn't want an innocent man and his family to suffer because of what she saw. But it quickly becomes doubtful that she's going to be able to unravel the mystery and clear this guy's name before her inquiries cause more harm than good. I'm going to back up one step because this entire series is special to me. My parents, they're from the UK, and I grew up watching All Creatures Great and Small with them. So being invited to contribute to this series was absolutely fantastic. It gave me the perfect excuse to finally visit my parents' homeland and immerse myself in Harriet's new life. It was an amazing experience. But I did get a little piece from my past that makes it into the elephant in the room, and it's the elephant statue that goes missing. I have a strong memory from my childhood of seeing that kind of statue. Well, there were actually 3 of them, and they were balancing a pewter bucket on their backs, and they were on the tea trolley, the old-fashioned tea trolleys that my grandparents had in their entranceway. And I don't know for sure how my granddad came to own it, but I imagine that he did his army service in India, which the UK occupied back in those days. And likely he brought it home as a souvenir. So that's the history I gave the statue in the story, although in the story it's much more valuable than in real life, I'm sure. Yes, it actually might be my husband's favorite. As authors, we were asked to include a recipe in the back of the book. So I decided to create a twist on the traditional Battenberg cake. Since I'm not fond of white cake and my husband loves Terry's chocolate oranges, and they were invented in York, I decided to experiment with making a chocolate orange Battenberg cake. And it was super yummy, definite do again. So that's the recipe we included in the book. And we even sliced up the cake I made and set it out on my Mum's old British fancy dishes with fancy English teacups and did a photo shoot for the bonus features on my website. On the mystery side, I'd have to say my favorite line was the warning scrawled on a note left on Harriet's windshield. It said, "Asking too many questions can be hazardous to your health." And it's always fun when the editor puts a little comment in the side saying, "Great cliffhanger." I'd have to say Harriet. And I relate to her the most because I've been in her head now through writing 4 books. But I'm down to earth, intensely practical farm girl at heart, a lot like her. So I totally relate to her. Well, the series as a whole, I love that each book in the series shares an inspiring faith lesson that readers can take away from it. I love that we, the authors, have the opportunity to write a letter to the reader at the back of the book. And so many of us share how writing the book spoke to us. So I hope readers take the time to read those, as well as just enjoy the immersion experience into everything Yorkshire. For the elephant in the room in particular, she's forced to confront her attitude and feelings about the noble class, their privileges, the deference they expect, that sort of thing. And she feels out of place among the so-called elite and doesn't really buy into the whole deference thing. And it got me to thinking, it's easy to feel insignificant or intimidated in the face of power or wealth or authority. And so I really grew as I read this, and I hope readers finish the story with an appreciation that their value, like Harriet's, isn't defined by societal standards, awards in the case of writers, or titles. We are sons and daughters of the King of Kings, and real nobility is about how we love and serve others. Oh, I feel reading inspiring fiction books is so important. As I shared earlier, they help me through some rough patches. Seeing characters battle the same questions or yearnings or frustrations I battle and triumph over them, that always restores my hope when it's flagging. And reading can simply be a lovely and sometimes much needed respite. I may not have little ones at home anymore, but I do have lots of little ones that visit me often. And oftentimes it'll just have the unexpected bonus of shining a light or a fresh perspective on something in our own lives, in how you're dealing with your children or your spouse or your friends. Readers see through the characters' thoughts. They hear their internal struggles and actions, so they learn alternatives, perhaps better ways to approach situations that they're experiencing in their own lives.